What's up? This is Ryan with Project Fresh, and today in our video we're going to address a very common issue that comes with working long hours or sitting long hours at the wheel or whatever keeps you in your seat for long periods of time. Okay, so driving eventually turns something like this, typical driving, work related stuff, mouse, or if you're lefty, related stuff typically turns from good posture to this, one of the sides, armrest, constantly switching the cheeks, or even something like this. So you start to get that round, chin starts to fall, okay? And so what happens is our butt goes to sleep, glute amnesia, or what's called dead butt. Our hip flexors, the iliopsoas, becomes very tight because if you feel into the iliopsoas muscle, you'll notice that it's also tight. Our core is usually disengaged, and our lower back typically, especially if we get any kind of movement through the pelvis, becomes very tight too. So we have tight hip flexors, a tight low back, disengaged glutes, and disengaged core, and that causes a lot of tension in the hip flexors as well as in the low back. So this routine is going to address that. All right. Go ahead and move my chair out of the way. We're gonna head to the deck. You can do this just about anywhere. Make sure you have a nice and soft mat or soft floor. Okay, we're gonna start with laying on the floor. Our first move is a very simple 10 glute bridges. We're gonna start with the feet hip distance apart, knees and feet, and then driving once the knees and feet are in place, driving those hips, squeezing through the glutes. We got 7, 8, I might be off by 1, 9, and 10 glute bridges, looking to activate the glutes, okay, specifically those butt muscles. After 10 of those, what I'm gonna have you do is go ahead and bring one knee up above the hips. So let's say on the right side, knee is above hip, hands are flat, upper back is flat, driving the knee up to the sky. Again, going for a total of 10. If this is too hard for you to do, just go back to the double leg option. 7, let's talk breathing. 8, exhale on the exertion. 9, inhale on the drop, and 10. That's on the left side. I'm gonna switch. Again, the knee is directly above the hip. Okay, so we're keeping that leg in place. Hands at the side, upper back and shoulders flat, with the head also flat on the floor. You can start with this routine cold. Don't have to do any warm-up, so this is actually a good routine to do anytime you're getting ready to lift. Okay. Let's call it 7, 8, it doesn't have to be perfect on the numbers, 9, and 10. All right, so we have 10 on each side. Then what we're gonna do next is a glute bridge with an abduction in the legs, meaning the knees are gonna go away from the center of the body. Okay, so we'll come up, we'll open V out into abduction, back together and down, up, abduction, back and down, making sure that the glutes are doing the work. You want to make sure those feet are flat on the ground, creating about a 90-degree bend in the knees, pressing up to the top, abduction, knees back together and down. Let's say 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that will really start to get those glutes warmed up. One thing that you can do for some additional work is take a loop band, okay, a small loop band, go around the knees, preferably above the knees, okay, and you can do this laying down, just a simple abduction to get those glutes fired up, or you can repeat, let's just finish that set, 6, 7, 8, squeezing the glutes, 9, 10, or you could go up to the top, same as we did before, abduction, together, and down, 2, 3. If you don't have a band, you can repeat without the band, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We'll drop. I'll make one note. This is to be done relatively quickly. Rest is needed, but again, it's a warm-up, so it's consecutive. We're not holding anything. It's all dynamic, so no static movements, meaning we're holding. Dynamic meaning we're moving all the way through. And that is, for the most part, a great way to warm up the glutes. We'll go ahead and take our band off. Again, if you don't have the small loop band, then no problem. I would suggest doing 2 to 3 sets of each of those movements, just to make sure you get those glutes nice and warm. And once you feel the buns are on fire, we'll go to this next one. So again, a mat is very important. We're starting with a nice tall posture, and what we're going to do is step the left knee forward, again making sure we're good, well and padded on the knee. The toe in the back can be pointing out or tucking in. That depends on the comfort level for the knee. I think that varies person to person. For me, typically I like the toe back. Keeping a tall posture from the hips through the shoulders, we're going to start to push the hips forward until you feel a deep stretch in the hip flexor, again that iliopsoas. And you're just going to hold in place to feel the stretch, taking in a big inhale and exhale. This might be extremely painful for you if you haven't done the stretch in a long time or ever, so slowly ease into it till you feel the stretch. You might move just a few inches and feel the stretch. And what I want you to do is work on breathing your way through. Again, big inhale. Hold for a second if you need to, and then as you exhale, see if the body falls. I would hold this position for about 20 seconds minimum. It would be good to do this 3 times, 20 to 30 seconds on each side, about 3 or 4 times a day. It would really help open up the hip flexor, stretch that out, help activate it, get those glutes activated. If you do this whole routine, again, pushing those hips forward slowly as you open up that hip flexor. One other strategy that you can use to help open your hip flexors is once you hit the end where you feel like it's tight, squeeze those glutes as hard as you can, pushing those hips forward. You'll feel some extra pull, but it shouldn't be too much more than what you were feeling. And you'll hold that squeeze in the glutes for 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And releasing the glutes, and you should feel yourself fall forward. So the tendency is, when I first teach this to someone, they squeeze those glutes and then they release and they sit back, which is typically natural. We're taking ourselves out of a stretching position. What I want you to do is squeeze, release, and let the body just naturally fall forward. And then after you've done that, do it 2 more times. Squeeze for 5, 4, 3, 2, feeling the stretch here, 1, and release. You'll feel another one, another fall forward. If your knee starts to get to be in front of your ankle, let's say you're looking like this, this is no longer really effective because we've reached about maximum inflection for the knee, and we're also getting into about as much dorsal flexion as we can have in the ankle. So what you want to do is push that foot forward so the ankle is in front of the knee. On that third one, squeeze again for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release, and see if you get, I just got a little bit on that last one. Rest in place for a little bit, come out, excuse me, and switch sides. So we want to do that 3 times after the initial stretch. So you'll come into it, allow the hip flexor to slowly kind of stretch out, wake up, especially if you've been sitting for a while. If you haven't done this ever or in a long time, this can be extremely painful for you. So I recommend that you take this process nice and slow, ease your way into it. I'm just letting my hip flexor slowly open up. You want to hold in a position. If it feels really tight, breathing, allowing the body to just naturally open up. And after about 20 to 30 seconds, 2 to 3 times, then you can start to go into, again, squeezing the glutes, applying some pressure, or some push rather, using those glutes to push those hips forward. That'll help open up through the hip flexor. 5 seconds, allow the body to come forward. If you need to move your foot ahead, you can. Squeeze for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. We'll go one more time and squeeze. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then you get a little bit more, happen to get a little bit more there. And then we'll go ahead and release. When you do this, most likely you're gonna feel something up in the abdomen, and that is not incorrect, that is in fact correct. The iliopsoas muscle is the only one that connects the lower and upper body. So it connects into the femur all the way up into the lumbar spine. So you will feel that stretch up in what feels like your abdomen area. One final stretch we can do to help open up the hip flexors is a progressed stretch called the bow. You can take the hands and place them right on top of the low back or glute and just slowly start to, you can also cup around the side if you need to, slowly just start to open up until you feel the stretch go to your comfort level. Big inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Wouldn't hold this for too long. If you want to go advanced, if this feels like you have a little bit more you can go, you can start to sit back a little bit, reach back for that heel. Once you got the firm plant, do the same on the other side and really start to get a nice bow motion going. Open up with the breathing. 3 to 5 breaths in either position. Okay. Grab the hip, slowly come forward, come back to neutral, and done. All right, so those are 3 movements that you can use to get your glutes and your hip flexors engaged. The first move being that series, the glute bridge, the single leg glute bridges, both sides, and then the glute bridge with abduction. That's our first one. Our second series is the hip flexor series, getting both sides with also the 5-second squeezes, using the glutes to push those forward. And then the last set is that bow, where you can either have hands on the hips or work your way down to the heels to open up through the core, iliopsoas, and even possibly down into the knees, working the quads in the mix. That will help with your pelvic movement, your pelvic tension or release thereof in the anterior, the front side, and posterior back side of your body. And if you do that enough, you'll start to feel those hips open up, your lower back open up, and go from there. So this is a good routine to get you prepped for your workouts, especially when you're doing either weight training for lower body, lower back, hips, quads, and also any kind of running or stair climber, treadmill type workouts as well. Ryan Sanders with Project Fresh, and we will be doing some additional series or videos on this particular area, the around the belt, for warming up these muscle groups, but this is a great intro to get you started. Until next time, we'll see you later. Have a good one.